Welcome everyone to a special edition of Calling the Audible, the Hall of Fame edition, our fifth such edition as we induct our fifth inductee to the 2017 FPF Hall of Fame. I'm Peeze and Rob. I'm sorry, I've done so many of these. You figure I'd have it down by now, but it gets more and more.
You mean this is the first one of today?
First one of today, I promise. It's the first one being released today, anyway. I am your host, Peeze and Rob. You can find me at Peeze FPF at most social media platforms, as well as Peeze and Rob on Facebook. You can reach out to me, let us know your thoughts on the Hall of Fame, as well as this year's production, as well as any of the media items that you see week in, week out. I'm joined by Robert Campana, who will relieve me by speaking soon. Evidently, I'll need the help. And of course, the Eagle on Master Control is doing what he does by twisting the knobs and pushing the buttons. We are brought to you by Sportira. Calling the Audible is brought to you from the Sportira cage, and Sportira, the official supplier of FPF uniforms. Rob, how's it going? That was awful. I feel like my colleague Simon Dagenet, who likely will never have his name called on this show. But this does bring us to our fifth and final player. We will induct a referee and a staffer soon as well. But our fifth player to be inducted in the Hall of Fame is Bobby Mickelberg. I still haven't got the timing right. Bobby Mickelberg, congratulations on your induction. You are the fifth player to be nominated. Bobby gets in with 24 votes this year. The notable teams he's played on, of course, mostly Rainmakers, but he's played for Legends and Brothers as well. His debut was in 2008 with the Rainmakers. Still that glittering 0 in the championships, but the Rainmakers in general have had such a huge impact on FPF. Bobby Mickelberg, chief among them. And Rob, we had the discussion in the opening show where we said, you know what, talent's important, but the impact is really what we're looking at. Who helped make FPF and really helped develop their history. And I think nobody in this class truly defines that the same way Bobby Mickelberg does, and as a member of the Rainmakers.
Yeah, absolutely, Paulo. It's very well said. I mean, the Rainmakers have been a steady calming influence in Division 1 since 2009, their second season in FPF. And, these guys started off as a group of young guys that were all McGill football players. They had paired off in that famous semifinal matchup against their McGill teammates in the Red Army in that first winter 2008 season. Bobby Mickelberg has been, if you ask me, over, there's longevity, and a lot of faces have kind of come and gone on that Rainmakers roster over the years. To me, besides quarterback Ryan Kastner, and obviously last year's Hall of Fame inductee Michael Chidiat, Bobby Mickelberg is that third of the three, faces and steady influences for the Rainmakers over all these years. Bobby's an exceptional talent. He's a guy obviously who played football at the highest level, university football, playing for McGill, was successful in his own right there. But playing flag, him and Michael Chidiat were always kind of the two stars on the team that were opposites of each other. Mike Chidiat being the smaller, shiftier, quicker guy, and Bobby Mickelberg obviously being the bigger physical specimen. Mm-hmm. But because of that, in all these years in Division 1, he's had to line up against guys like week in, week out, Paul LaPierre, Aked Moore, all those big players. It was always Bobby Mickelberg who was called upon to kind of line up against them in the red zone, make that big play, whether it be on a jump ball or whatever. So again, the discussion is always Division 1 players vis-a-vis lower division players. To me, Bobby Mickelberg is the perfect example of a guy who maybe hasn't won 5, 6, or 7 awards over the years.
He's won 2 actually. He's won Receiver of the Year and 2 of the Year. Yeah,
absolutely, which is very admirable in Division 1 and Division A over all these years. But of course, the goose egg in the championships up until now. But that being said, playing at the highest level of competition and year in, year out being an all-star. Just like a standout guy. So I'm really happy to see Bobby Mickelberg get in. I think it's very deserving, and it's nice to see these Rainmaker guys finally getting a bit of love from FPF Nation, because let's be honest, they're not guys that are necessarily boastful or loud on the field. They're not really guys that are very much engaged in the FPF community, whether it be on through Facebook forums or whatever the case may be. So sometimes because of that, unfortunately, you end up being a product of your own quietness, I guess, for lack of a better term. So it's nice to see that the fellow Division 1 players and even a lot of guys in the lower divisions look up to Bobby and say, you know what, this guy absolutely belongs in the Hall of Fame. And finally in 2017, he gets in.
Just some of the other times he could have been playing in lower divisions to potentially carry a team, and he's chosen to not do that, right? Staying almost exclusively with Rainmakers in Division 1. So
that's it. And Bobby has, in the last few seasons, so he has helped out the Legends, and he actually did play on the roster that did win a championship a few years back, but obviously didn't have enough games to be eligible to get that championship, even though it does show up on his player page. But as far as, he played quarterback for the Brothers last year. He played quarterback for the Pack a few years back as well. Bobby's a former baseball player. He's got a cannon for an arm, so he's a guy that actually, should he have taken the quarterback role a little more seriously and be able to dedicate himself to it, I could see him being the type of guy like a Vinny Gualano or guys that we've seen kind of transition from receivers to lower division quarterbacks and kind of stand out. But it seems to me like Bobby is that type of guy who enjoys playing on one team per season, shows up week in, week out for the Rainmakers, does his job, goes home. You don't hear much about it, but finally he's getting the recognition that he so rightfully deserves.
And for myself, when I first started in FPF, the big rivalry at the time in Division 1 was between the Finest and Rainmakers, and Rainmakers were that team that every year would challenge Montreal's Finest for the championship. Unfortunately, never winning that championship, but it was a team I always secretly rooted for because bias is awesome. But you like seeing a group of guys move up together. You like seeing a group of guys play together and grow together. And Bobby Michaelberg being such a big piece for this Rainmakers team. It's the guys you ultimately want good things to happen for, and despite lack of championships, there has been a lack of success for Rainmakers, and this being my first season covering Division 1 and 2, I'm happy to see Bobby Michaelberg get in because I truly do enjoy it. I remember writing in my preseason breakdown for this current season saying, you know what, I hope I'm wrong. I don't think the Rainmakers will be successful this season. I truly meant that. I wanted them to come out, and if they would have had an amazing run and whatever, it would have been truly great to see. And there's still time for that, of course, this season. But my point in saying that is I've always been a fan of the Rainmakers, the way they do things, and Mike, you mentioned Dave Chidiad, you mentioned Ryan Castner, but among those two names, you have to consider Bobby Michaelberg, and for that reason, truly happy he's in the Hall of Fame. And so that brings us to the end of the show. Our fifth inductee, Bobby Michaelberg. Once again, congratulations. You are the fifth inductee of the 2017 FPF Hall of Fame.